last semester, the final exam, I didn't emphasize not open book. So some students already use cell phone or even notebook to find some lecture note maybe from the class. Finally, I decided to adjust the score to shorten the distance between your scores. I take square root then times 10. So your difference will be short. Yes, short. Will be shorter. Yes. Hope to make some. Yes, at least I already deal with this problem. So I think finally no student complain or blame. 好，那我们就开始上课，帮忙录影一下吧。
我已经开了。
啊？
我已经开了。
OK。Inverse trigonometric functions. Trigonometric functions is defined to be okay. An equivalent way to define trigonometric function is put the real number line vertically through 1, 0, and passes 1, 0. So this is 1, 0, and minus 1. And we bend the line around this unit circle to have the arc length is 1, arc length is 2, arc length is 3, and so on. 1. So we call this angle. We call this angle 1 by using the arc length. This kind of measurement is called radians. Radians of a given angle. Okay. So when a number x is given, okay, this is UV plane. When x is given, maybe here, x, or we can write an x here. Then the coordinates of this point is depend on x. It's depend on x. Depends on x, sorry. Depends on x. So you coded the first component is called cosine x, and the second component is called sine x. This is a way to define the sine and cosine. So for arbitrary real number x is given, use this process, we can find the cosine x and the sine x. Okay. X here, 1, 2, 3. X is given. Okay, the circumference is 2 pi. So the length of this arc is pi. This is half pi. And this is minus half pi. When x from 0 to half pi, the y coordinate from 0 to 1. The y coordinate from 0 to 1. So this length equals this length, x when x from half pi to pi, y coordinate from 1 to 0. Similarly, if x from 0 decreases to minus half pi, then y coordinate from 0 to decrease to minus 1. And since this function is periodic, for example, if we add x by 2 pi back to the original position, we'll have the same value. So this function is not one-to-one, not a one-to-one function. So this function does not have any inverse. Okay, but for a given value, for example, here 1/2, we want to know sine of what number equals 1/2. Easy. How to find this one? Yes, 1/2. We consider this position, and this arc corresponds to this angle. Sine of this arc, or sine of this one, equals 1/2. In fact, this is pi 6. So we will call this one arc sine 1/2. Why we use arc? Because this arc is a measurement of pi 6. Sine pi 6, pi over 6 equals 1/2. So this arc, such that sine of this arc equals 1/2. So we use arc sine. Or anyway, because this function is not 1/1, if we restrict its domain to a small interval, we choose this part. Or corresponding to this part, this portion of circumference. Then for arbitrary number from -1 to 1, no matter where is given, value. So if we restrict sine function to this small interval, then it is 1, 1. Okay, if we make this restriction, then this relation becomes a one-to-one function. So it has an inverse function. The inverse function will call So under this restriction, now y is a function of x. When x is even, we can find 1 and only 1, 1. Conversely, if y is even, for example, -1/2. Also, y as independent variable, x is dependent variable. This is given, we obtain minus maybe. So y is given x under this restriction is also completely determined. So x is also a function of y. We will use this notation or this notation, both common, very common. Use this one or this one. But you have to know, even we use this notation, inverse sine y does not mean the inverse function of sine, because this function has no inverse. Okay, this function is not 1, 1, so this function does not have an inverse. We use this notation just simply a brief way to express arcsine. Okay. So we call arcsine or arcsine the inverse sine function. Inverse sine function is not the inverse of sine function. It is an inverse of the restrict function. Restrict sine to small interval, to the first and fourth quadrant. First and fourth quadrant. Because in first and fourth quadrant, sine, the value of sine, from -1 to 1 occupy the whole range of sine. Okay. Entire range. Okay, under this consideration, these two statements are equivalent, same meaning. Usually, as before, we want to use x as the independent variable. This curve is the graph of y equals arcsine x, equivalently sine y equals x. But if x is given, there are many, infinitely many y, we choose this one. Then x, y is also a function of x. So the notion, the concept or the thinking of inverse function, not only for the square root versus power, logarithmic versus exponential, even here, same way to define inverse of some non-one-to-one function by restricting its domain, to some suitable or convenient subintervals. Okay, so here, this is the inverse inverse sine function, but we seldom. If you emphasize inverse sine is weird, usually we will read it as arcsine. Okay, arcsine. The same situation applied to other 5, 6 trigonometric functions. Next, let's consider cosine.